was 1971, and a group of us that were in the same art class had agreed to go to Europe. It was a trip that was put on or put together by our instructor, and it was open to everyone, but I think it was only 7 of us that actually decided that we were going to go, and got together the funds and so forth in order to go. Anyway, our first stop from Detroit was New York, and we were going from New York over to Europe. So we arrived separately into New York, and as I was approaching the hotel that we were all to meet at, I saw this girl standing in front of the hotel. She was what we used to say fine. I mean, she was just so, I remember everything. I mean, she had like this peach colored top and a mini skirt, and she had a big, perfectly manicured afro. She kind of reminded me of like a young Angela Davis, and I was struck. I just thought, wow, she is just so fine. I had never seen a girl that just, wow, just knocked me off my feet, just the first impression. And I thought to myself, too bad that she's not going on this trip, because I would rap my butt off to her. I mean, I would seriously talk to her because she was just a dream. And so, 16 years old, I'm thinking all this nonsense because that was just not me, but in my head, that was me. I went into the hotel and met with the others that were going on the trip. We met in a hotel room. And as we were talking, she walked in, the same hot chick. I thought, wow, maybe she's a friend of one of the girls that was going on the trip. And, maybe she lived in New York and she was just coming to say goodbye, send her off or whatever. No, she was actually going on the trip. And I thought, wow, what happened to all of that? If she's so fine, you're going to rap to her and you're going to talk to her and everything else like that. If she was going to, I mean, too bad she's not. What happened? All of that just kind of faded out the window because I didn't know what to say. I was awestruck and had no idea what I would say or, how I could approach this girl. So I was kind of like in limbo. So as the thoughts were rattling around in my mind as we went from New York to London, I was like, how can I talk to her? What would I say? Suppose that, you start going into the negative mode. So suppose she rejects me. Suppose this or that. I mean, but then I rationalized with myself, we're only going to be on this trip for 2 weeks. Don't waste any time trying to figure out whether it's going to work or not. You just do what you can do, and if we wind up just being friends, fine. I would rather it not be, but what can you do? It's better to go ahead and make your move as opposed to waste the entire trip wondering what could have happened or what should have happened and that type of thing. Again, I didn't really know how to approach her, so I just let nature take its course. For some odd reason, we were all in the same hotel room, and we were looking out the window. At the windowsill, there was only enough room for 6 people. Everybody else had already taken a spot at the windowsill, just looking out. I mean, it was nothing nefarious or anything crazy. We were just looking out at the city at night. And so I just took my place. I wanted to look out the window too. So I stood behind her and just kind of leaned over her, and I was just casually just looking out the window. I had my arms around her because my hands were on the windowsill, just leaning over around her. She looked up at me and she smiled, and that was it. That's all it took. That was the go signal. So I was excited. This is actually a fairy tale come true. Now here I am in Europe for the first time, meeting the most gorgeous girl I had ever seen, and she was into me. So I, from that point to the end of the trip, we were inseparable. we were, and she was just so attentive. I mean, it wasn't like I had to, you know, be anything different than me. I could just completely be me, and she was just like there, just holding me, and she wouldn't let me out of her sight. I mean, it wasn't like she was possessive, but she wanted me to know, and everybody else around to know, that she was with me, and it was amazing. It was amazing. Our second stop after London was France. What I didn't know is that her father actually worked in the embassy in France. So even though I spoke a little bit of French because of, I spoke 2 or 3 words of French because of the lessons that we had taken in school, she was fluent. She could rattle off in France, and so I was like seriously impressed. I mean, it was like, what had I gotten myself into? I mean, this is just amazing. She's not an ignoramus. I mean, she's no dumb chick. I mean, she's got it all going on besides beauty and brains and everything. It was fantastic. The next couple of weeks that we were in Europe together, literally day and night, in each other's arms and holding hands. We did get the chance to see all of Europe. I mean, not all of Europe, but we did get a chance to get around. Now, our instructor had informed us early on that she was not going to be our babysitter. She was going to do her thing, we could do our thing, just make sure we were at the airport when we needed to make the changes for the next flight to go to the next country. She didn't want to have to come hunting for us or anything else like that. And we were responsible. Remember, this is way back in the day. We were actually children, or we weren't children, but we were responsible. We knew what we had to do. We weren't, rebellious. We weren't trying to get into anything. We were too young to go to the clubs. But we had a good time, and we weren't alcoholics or, trying to get drunk or, getting high or anything else like that. So she could trust us. We were sane, and we had a good time. We didn't really do the tourist thing. We did do some of that, but basically on our own. We wanted to get to see what the city and the people in the city did naturally. So we went, like I said, we went from London to Paris to Italy, Switzerland, and Germany. Sadly enough, the trip ended way too quickly. I started thinking in terms of this was going to be one of those summer romances, and that it was going to end. And it was sad because she wasn't from Detroit. And so when we got back, I thought, this was going to be an experience of a lifetime. And anyway, when we got back, she decided that, I guess with her parents' approval, she decided that she was going to stay until the end of the summer in Detroit with her girlfriend, which was like awesome news for me. So we saw each other basically on a daily basis, pretty much a daily basis for the duration of that summer. I showed her off to everybody. I mean, I was just so proud. I mean, here I am, this guy, with the most gorgeous girl on the planet, in my eyes. And she was into me. I was into her. I was ready to get married. At 16 years old, I was ready to get married, settle down, have kids. My life was done. I had clocked it. It was, as we used to say back in the day, my nose was wide open. And she had her claws in me, and that was it. I was done. I didn't need to look any further. My true love had come. I was just over the hill. And as I said, so for the next couple of weeks, while she was there in Detroit, constantly together. I mean, we did everything. I showed her everything that I could think of. She was just there. I mean, she was just so into me. That was the amazing thing. I never thought I'd find anything as exciting and as perfect as this was. So the time finally came where school was starting. She had to go back, but we promised each other we'd write and call. Back then, there was no cell phones. There was long distance calling, and long distance calling was a huge charge. I mean, it wasn't part of your phone bill. It was an addition to. It came with your phone bill, but they made sure you knew that was separate, and the charges were astronomical. So we had to limit that. And the challenge was, they had no caller ID. We did have voice message, but it was no texting. It was nothing like that. So basically, if you call and you miss, the call was missed, you left a message, and they would need to get back to you. And as I said, the long distance calling was astronomical. So anyway, we did that for a couple of weeks. After about, I'd say about a month and a half, and it got very infrequent. I called and she wasn't there. She wouldn't call back, and I tried to call again, and she might once in a while she would respond, but it became less frequent, and I could tell something had happened. I didn't know what had happened, and I was hoping against hope that our relationship could endure this, for another year, and somehow we would live happily ever after, somehow, some way, in my fantasy. Anyway, about a good 2 months in, the call stopped. I kept calling, she stopped answering. And weirdly, at that time, I don't know, some of you old timers may remember a song called Have You Seen Her by the Shy Lights? That record came out, and it was like a big hit, and that was like, oh God. That's all I could hear. Have you seen her? Have you seen her? And, it just made me want to cry, and then another song came out by the Temptations called I Want to Go Outside in the Rain. So these songs were like the background music to my life at that point. And all I could hear is, I want to go outside in the rain so I could cry. And I did, because there was no abrupt end to it. There was no, okay, this isn't going to work on it. It was just like, I didn't want to give up, because I thought the second I gave up, that's when she was going to call. But she didn't. And, I had to come to terms with that. It was hard. I was still so desperately trying to hold on. But one day her girlfriend, still a classmate of mine in school, told me, yeah, I have to tell you something about her. She is, dating someone else, back home. And she didn't know how to tell you. So I just fell into pieces. This is not the word that I wanted to hear. I didn't know whether I had been used. I felt like I had been used. But it was so real for me. At least for me, it was just seriously real. But I vowed at that point this was never going to happen again. I would never let anyone control me so emotionally as she did. It wasn't that she controlled me, it's that I allowed myself to just go head over heels. It was life-changing for me. I was, like, as I said, I was ready after finishing high school to drop everything, get married, have a family. Whatever she wanted me to do, whatever she needed me to do, I was willing. Just to be with her forever. Unfortunately, that was not to be the case. Lesson learned.